Hi, this is going to be a tutorial on field parameters for a page that lets users build their own tables or control just about everything in other visuals, all without you having to build those visuals out for your end user. So this is a very basic stylized report. I haven't made any field parameters yet. We have two tables of data here. One is a table of moon objects on the moon by year, by country, with some metadata like the weight and whether or not that object crashed. We also have a lookup table of zodiac signs by year, and we're going to do some quick analysis using field parameters and show how users can select their own table. So to make a field parameter, we're going to go into the Modeling tab, hit the New Parameter dropdown, and choose Fields. Now, a parameter is going to let you choose any of these options that we add, and ideally, in this case, toggle between them. First, we're going to create a field parameter for the view in this table here. Currently, it's country, but we're going to also put in the year and the zodiac sign as a toggleable option. It is our view of the table, so this will be our view parameter. So we're going to go zodiac sign. We're selecting the column of the table. And out of moon objects, we are going to choose year. And we're also going to choose country. These are all text. Now I chose the year out of my moon objects table because that's the information I care about. The zodiac table has more years than we've had moon travel for, and I don't want those in my visual. So be careful about what you choose. Now, I don't want to add a slicer to this page because I've already stylized a slicer down here. Now, we can see that our view parameter has been created and it shows up in our data pane on the right. If you expand this, you'll see view parameter. Now, we can nice and easily drag this into a slicer. Here's our view parameter. And you can see as we select objects on our slicer, nothing changes. So we have to remove the view column out of our table, and we're going to drag the new parameter we created into the table. Now, the parameter is going to select what the first column of the table is, and we can use this slicer to show that. So that's how we can do a quick field parameter just to let users choose the way a table is summarized. Note that the total number of objects is the column sorted descending, and that remains through this view change. We're only choosing what column is actually being shown here. Now, field parameters also, if I configure the slicer to let me do this, will allow me to choose multiple objects. So now I can see the country, the year, and the zodiac sign, and this will expand the table even more. You can greatly control how field parameters work using slicers that are formatted to single select only. If we wanted to force single select and not allow more than one, we can do that. Sometimes it's required to control your parameters with a slicer and design them with specific slicers in mind. Now, we're also going to allow users to do that really cool functionality of choosing what columns are in their table. So I have already made several basic measures, all of which are a basic sum or count measure that is only driven by one column. That'll let us do some interesting things here. So we're going to go and make another field parameter. This is going to be our moon parameter because it's our moon objects. And out of my calculations folder, this is where all my measures are housed, I'm just going to choose all of the objects I want. And I'm actually going to select them in a specific order so that it looks nice in the slicer. So I want the number of objects that landed, number of objects that crashed, and number of operational objects first, followed by the total mass in pounds and kilograms. And then lastly, the total number of objects. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and rearrange that here. We can carefully sometimes drag these, or maybe just re-add them. And I do not want a slicer added to this page. We're going to go ahead and hit create. So now we have a moon parameter. Now, a parameter, if you come in here into your data view, you can see that a parameter is just a table. Now we can do some interesting things in here because this is a table. Now the first thing we're going to do is rename a few of our measures. So you can see the structure of this is a string that is then the name of a calculation measure. So number that landed is going to be the displayed text of my measure called number that landed. I can actually change the way that this will appear when dragged into an object if I want to slightly clarify the way that my measures are actually displayed to the user. So instead of sum of mass, I want these to show up to the user as total mass without having to rename my measures. And it is very simple to do that here. And now we're also going to add a custom column. This is how you can categorize objects within a slicer, and I'll show you how that looks here in a moment. We're going to have two categories. So to determine the category, we're going to write a switch statement. So we're going to be switching off the statement true. The switch statement essentially works as an if-else if. So if our moon parameter order, which is this column, is 3 or less, it's going to cover these first 4 rows. So we're going to say moon parameter order is less than 4. So that'll cover 3, 2, 1, and 0, and those will be objects, because that's all information about objects. And then we're also going to switch in moon parameter order less than 6 will be weight. So now you can see our new category column returns objects for 4 rows as we intended and weight for 2. We could have done this other ways, but this is a nice easy way to write a switch statement to categorize these without having to do too much effort. You can continue to follow this structure all the way down and categorize your own field parameters. You can even go several categories deep using new columns and switch statements. If you do need a catch-all at the end, so we might have other items get added later, you can finish that with an else essentially at the end. So that's how you can write a switch statement and categorize your field parameters. Now we're going to go ahead and just pull all of the measures out of this table, so it is now only the view parameter. That's all we get in this table. And now we're going to drag in our moon parameter into the table. Whoop, wrong object. Grab our moon parameter into the table. Now you can see currently all of those objects are selected. Now we're going to go ahead and make a clone of this button slicer because I like the formatting on it. I'm going to drop my other parameter in there. So you can see we've got 3 buttons. In this, we probably want a grid. I think we should probably go 2 rows. We have 6 measures, so 6 buttons, 3 columns, 2 rows. We'll put it 2 by 3. I think we should allow multi-select. So we're going to uncheck single select and then shrink this slightly till it stops hiding that text. We'll just leave that right there. Drag this table out of the way. All right, now we can drag these columns to the width that we want. And because these columns still exist, even if they're unhidden with this slicer, all of the formatting, including the width that you set on the columns by hand, like I'm doing right now, that will remain if we start hiding columns. So we can show the total mass in pounds and kilograms, and those, despite just being unchecked, will remain. We can check all the objects, and you'll see that all of those widths remain. It's because the columns exist in the table. They're just being filtered out. This works exactly like filtering rows out with any other slicer. We just happened to drag our parameter into a table where it's displayed like this. And because these are ultimately measures being displayed, the parameters just controlling how they're displayed, they are sortable high to low. There are times in which in a matrix visual you can drag in category columns from a table into your columns, and then those are not sortable. This is a much nicer experience for the end user. So now, by zodiac signs, we can view the number of currently operational moon items. If we wanted to look at the number of crashes by year, looks like 1966 and 1971 were it. If we wanted to see which country has the most weight of man-made objects on the moon, we can do that too. Pig is on top. Pigs are pretty heavy. That makes sense to me. So that is how you can let users create their own table using field parameters. And this works almost identically using any other object. I have the same buttons over here. This is a very basic chart. All I have done is visually format it. Currently we have the zodiac year, the number of objects, and the country. But we can very easily take that out, and I kind of like year in here for the bar graph. Let's see what we can do if we put our moon parameter in there. We're going to go ahead and copy this slicer over. We're not going to sync it up because we want to maybe format it differently for this visual. Now we have our moon parameter there. Number of operational. And then for our legend, we're going to drag in our view parameter. And this is going to do something really interesting. So now our legend is going to be, oh wait, we're going to get rid of this. Here's our view parameter. Had an old slicer there. All right, so we have our view parameters in our slicers. We can now have this color code via the button for the same data. Now, if we wanted to look at the number of crashes, we can view that by country here. We can also view it by year. That doesn't really work well with years in the x-axis there. So maybe we tweak that, or by zodiac sign. Now, what if we drag out of our x-axis the year and we put our view parameter in there instead? Here's something else we can do. So we can now make a bar graph by zodiac sign showing the number of crashes. We can show them by year, which will remain chronological because that is what we had in there formatted. You can set those sort axes in here. Or we can view it by country. And we can still choose which objects we see. We can, instead of doing a stacked bar graph like this, maybe we want a different bar graph where it pairs it up like that. We can see number of crashes, number of operational objects next to each other by country, or next to each other by year, or by zodiac sign. So depending on how you set the parameters and how creative you are designing these objects, you can do some very interesting things. So that's how you can let users build their own visuals. Now, there was one other piece that I wanted to show. This is a little bit more for style, and it's not something I see very often. One challenge with DAX and in Power BI is detecting what objects are selected in a parameter. Now, when you look at a field parameter as a table, the view parameter column in the my view parameter here, but the first column is not one that you can always read in DAX. So I have often been cloning that column. I'll just call it paraname, parameter name, and we're just going to make that equal our view parameter. And that is now no longer, this new column does not suffer from any of the ill effects of being the default column here that sometimes you can't read in DAX. So if we make a measure, we can say what is selected in our moon parameter. And we are going to use the summarize statement here and concatenate x. The concatenate x function is going to turn a list of objects into a single string, and we can choose the delimiter. So in this case, what we want to concatenate is a table, and we're going to concatenate a summarized table. So in the summarize statement, we want to look at our moon parameter. So I'm going to say moon parameter. We are going to summarize it at the order level. Moon parameter order. Now the parameter order is basically the index of the table, so this will make sure we get every row. We don't have to summarize any more than that. And now we have to call this summarized table something. We never really have to refer to it again, and this will never be seen anywhere. I'm going to call it TBL. And what we actually want to return is the selected value of our moon parameter. And now we can close our summarize statement, can continue with concatenate x. The expression that we want is table. We want to concatenate the objects from table, which will show up with square brackets. Now, the delimiter that we want, that's going to be the item that separates each of these in our string. We're going to use a comma with a space after it. And now we can close our concatenate x. So if we drop this measure into a card so we can see what it's doing, where's card? We just want to see what that measure's saying. What is selected in our moon parameter? So there's something going on with it. Concatenate x, summarize moon parameter. So that's the name of the measure. Moon parameter. That should work. What is the name of that column I made? Oh. Is that in... the other parameter? Oh, I made it in the other parameter. All right, so we're going to make a new column in moon parameter. Paraname equals moon parameter. All right. So now what is selected on our moon parameter? We just want that parameter name. So now we can see number of operational. Let's turn that value down a little bit. Total mass, total number of objects. So this is how we would set the conditional formatting of other objects based on what is selected in a field parameter. For example, the background color of this card can be determined using the measure we just made. We can say, what do we base this field on? And we can choose our what is selected on our moon parameter, and we can say if this measure, which is this string, contains number of operational, then turn the card blue. Now, that didn't work. Contains number of operation all. Now you can see if we check the number of operational box, it does turn blue no matter what other slicers we have. And you can do a lot of interesting things using this measure and background shading as you're building visuals. So that's my tutorial. If you need to contact me or have any questions, I will be linking this file, which will be downloadable from Google Drive, in the comments of this post. You can reply there or contact me by email. Thank you.